What's up? What's up? What's happening? It's your man NIC alongside.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Bernadine Truth. So excited to see y'all back at it for another week.
Yes. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. We're here for another week, like Bernadine said, of the Urban Collective show. We're very happy to be back, to be on air. I know last week we had some technical difficulties and some glitches with our interview, so hopefully we'll get to do that interview again. So we ended up not putting the podcast out, but part of the show you can see it on YouTube. It's still available, so you can go watch it on YouTube. But the audio is not that great, so we did not turn it into a podcast. So just in case people were looking for the podcast episode, that is the reason why we didn't do it. But we will definitely interview the guests again, and hopefully this time, third time will be the try. It's the third time we'll be trying to interview this person, so that'll be great.
Awesome.
Bernadine, what's up with you?
I'm here. I'm tired, y'all.
Yeah, you look tired.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm not even like trying to be rude. I'm like, normally you're like,
right. It's the facts, right? Reality TV, reality podcasting. I'm tired. I'm happy that daylight savings time has hit us, right? So it's getting darker later in the day. But I'm just tired. I'm like, classes, we're getting ready sooner than later. It's going to be finals time. So I'm prepping for finals now. I'm not going to wait for finals to start prepping just because it's so much content. And it's just exhausting. Just trying to get papers done, trying to show up for my job, my traditional 9 to 5. Carrying my company, even though I had to simplify things significantly because I'm in school. It's just a lot, and I think just navigating life, friendships, relationships, and any type of aspect of it, it's just a lot right now. I'm feeling it. And on the one hand, right, like I'm so excited because it's like I said, it's getting darker later. We had warm weather last weekend, which was awesome, but I'm definitely at that point of like I'm just drained, and so I need a moment to just recuperate and regroup. But unfortunately, that's not going to come for a little bit. But how are you doing?
I'm doing good. The weather has definitely helped. The time change has helped me a little. But the weather last week, just being warm, when I went outside, it was like, oh my God, it's nice out. That helped. I think like recently, I don't know, the other day, like I just was like I think I got to the point where I was like, I just need to get away. I need to. I don't know. So I've been working on that, trying to see maybe not something big, but something little. Just go away for a weekend or like I don't know. Like I only go out to either drop my son off or to go to the supermarket. I don't go away.
Or to go where? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Supermarket, BJ's, supermarket runs. That's it.
Want BJ's runs for me? Let me know. I'm happy to accept any goods at any point. I feel like sponsoring an adult, sponsoring.
We don't sponsor adults over here at this household. If there was kids in the house, then yes, then that would be different. But yeah, so I mean, this week is better. I'm a little bit more content, a little bit more happy. But yeah, for some reason, like I think the weather really helped. I've been feeling like this past couple of weeks, so hopefully that will change it. I mean, I'm looking forward to going back outside. Like, and you know me, I'm not a person that goes out a lot, but I'm like, I think when we go back outside, I'm gonna be outside. Bernadine, I might be with you. Like, you'd be like, so what? Let's go. Because that's how much I think I realize I'm missing being able to go out, being able to hang out and do stuff. And it's not like I do stuff every day, but like once a week, twice a week, or something like that. Just going somewhere, hanging out, go to a restaurant, like those are all the things that I'm like, yeah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So hopefully it'll come soon. It's making me think about taking the vaccine pretty soon. I've been going back and forth with that. So I'm like, should I wait for summer or should I take it now so that when summer comes, I can be like, yeah, the vaccine, I'm good. I'm wrestling with that. But that's about it.
It's a lot. The summer's gonna be. I'm still very curious to see what the summer in Boston's gonna be like right now, because I think people are about to have. I think people are about to have a great time.
Yeah,
I think in the very beginning, people were like, "Oh, once the world opens up again, people are going to be nervous." But I actually think there have been a couple of moments where we've had warm days in Boston, and people went all out.
Yeah,
it was days, or not even days, hours.
Yeah.
So get ready, folks. Hide your wife, hide your kids, hide your babies, hide your everything. Because Boston culture is about to come out here and get everybody this summer.
Yeah,
because we've been cooped up for so long, so people are ready for it. But I'm excited that you're gonna go out for a little bit, because I think that's so necessary. I think that balance is super essential for our development and our well-being. So stay posted, Tuck fam and followers, because it's about to go down.
We'll be able to do some live shows, do some events, like
be out in the community.
I have like a party theme in my head I've been trying to throw.
You don't know who your partner is, so it's tough. Not co-host partner, life partner.
Oh,
I don't know why you're talking about throwing a party.
No, not like a house party, like an event somewhere. Like once it opens back up. I've spoken.
You still don't know who your partner is.
Hey, last time I checked,
as long as you got your suitcase packed for 2 weeks, of course, out of the house. I'm sure it's open to you doing whatever you want.
She wouldn't go that far.
Okay.
No, if that's something I really want to
send you videos and photos of Sean.
Like, hey, stay in a hotel for the weekend. No, so let me stop.
Listen, so that I know what it is. Just so that I know what it is.
I'm really looking to do this event. Like I've been thinking about it, and it's something I was like, yo, once I get back, society opens back up. I've spoken to my man Smooth about it, and probably contact a couple other people and see if we could put something like that together. It'll be for older adults. So like I want it to be like a 25, maybe 30 plus event. Like no youngins. I'm sorry, youngins.
Right.
Like an old school party type of event, food, good music, good vibes, maybe a day party or something like that, and just wild out. Like,
no, that's real. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. And one more time, we'll see. If I see you roaming the streets, please just give him some food and a blanket. That you love him, because his wife is not going to let him in the house for a little bit. He's wishful thinking. He don't live alone like Bernadine. So anyway, but as always, it's cool. But as always, folks, we also love to update you all before we bring our celebrity guest on about the week that was, right? So what happened in the world between the time we were last on air to now. We're gonna start. I'd say we could start with the news, sports news. I mean, anybody got some updates? And I see this is your lane.
Yes. We have some sports updates for you. It looks like the New England Patriots and coach / GM Bill Belichick is going on a tear since free agency. Well, free agency isn't open until tomorrow, Wednesday, but they can actually speak to people starting yesterday. They have signed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players. 8 players they have signed as free agents. And a lot of these players we have signed 2 tight ends that were the number 1 and the number 2 tight end that was in the market. It's something that we went back in the day when Gronk was here and the other tight end, I should not mention his name, that went to jail. He was the key to them winning a championship and going to the playoffs with the style of play that it affords you having 2 tight ends. 2 tight ends is basically, if you don't understand football, they're like a wide receiver, but they're bigger. So they're able to block, they're able to run, not as fast, but they can block and catch the ball. And because of that, just like Gronk, imagine having 2 Gronks on one team. So these guys, I wouldn't compare them to Gronk, but they are good players. They spent money, which people were shocked by. Combined what they spent this year, they spent that in the past 5, almost 8 seasons combined, what they spent in these 2 days with all the contracts. They've doled out almost $140 million in contract money to these players. We picked up 2 wide receivers, which we needed. One's name's Nelson Aguilar, the other wide receiver we picked up is Kendrick Bourne. He's an up and coming young receiver that's pretty good. We picked up a defensive tackle, two defensive tackles. We picked up a defensive end. So our defense, we had a lot of people that were out due to COVID last year that are coming back. So because of that, that's helping us out. But also some of the holes that we had last year, we picked up extra players in. So everybody's excited right now. Cam Nguyen was signed again for just a 1-year contract, but they signed him for a $14 million contract. A lot of people were up and down about that. They didn't know how to feel, but it was done. So we'll see how that works.
I'd say in addition to some of this NFL news, I'd like to give LeBron James a big shout out. LeBron James is out here changing the game. For those of you who don't know, breaking news announced as of today that LeBron James has become a partner in the Fenway Sports Group, making him a part owner. Y'all hear this? A part owner of the Boston Red Sox. Now, y'all know.
Minority owner.
Fenway, what'd you say?
That's his minority owner.
But he's owner. I think that's amazing. I'm like also like different sports, like going from the world of basketball, merging it for the world of baseball.
Oh, yeah.
And then also like just knowing the history of Boston, the history of Fenway, and then also knowing that we had to rechange some of our street names in the Fenway of Boston to be more inclusive, lacking the racism, and just denying Black people rights to play baseball was something that was an issue when it was like the Yawkey way, you know. So just thinking about the history of the physical location of where the Red Sox play, and that's to have a Black man being part owner of that. Like, I love when I see moments where people of color defy the odds and they're more than just the stereotypical images of what one imagines them to be, right? So we had Jay-Z highlighted last week, or a couple weeks ago, for his like billion-dollar investment and going into, you know, he's just a businessman all around, right? He's like in alcohol, he's in sports, he's in this, that, and the third, you name it. And to see LeBron James now still being in the world of an athlete, but being a businessman in this capacity, I think is inspiring. And it's a lot to know that, again, like you're part of an industry, in an industry that you're not necessarily, I mean, it's the athletic world, but again, you're a basketball player doing something and owning something in the world of baseball. That's dope. And then for Boston, so LeBron, welcome. Hopefully
that whole team, Maverick Carter, everybody in that whole team, they're doing their thing, man. Like that's one of the things I love about his team. He took his friends that he went to high school with, made them go to college, go to business school, and now they have a multi-billion-dollar company, literally, that is worth. So making movies, making shows, going into entertainment now, sports ownership, clothing lines, all of that. So they're really tackling a lot of different things. So shout out to them. Schools, all of that.
All of it. We love to see it. I'd say with that, some pop culture news for folks. Like, I'll start off by highlighting the Grammys, y'all. The 63rd Grammy Awards took place a couple of days ago. Beyonce was announced one of the winners. You know, she won for, I think it's like Best Music Video. Brown Skin Girl, Blue Ivy is on the charts. Meg Thee Stallion had a phenomenal performance. People were doing their thing. Cardi B. I think that this was definitely an award show for a lot of women, embracing a lot of women in the industry, highlighting folks who are just game changers. Music, I think, is always going to be a unifying force for all people, regardless of where you're from, and regardless of the languages that you speak. And so to see so many women be recognized, I think that is super awesome. And shout outs to all of the winners. Again, whether or not you are a woman of color, you are deserving. But of course, the women of color continue to pave the way within the industry, because this was also during an unprecedented time. I say for any artist who produced anything, right? During COVID and the pandemic. I want to take a moment to acknowledge those in the world of entertainment, because movies, shows, concerts, people have still been trying to put on for the people in these times, in virtual. You think about the versus battles, right? You think about people being creative and being on green screens and not physically being able to be around each other when they're shooting, right? They did so much behind the scene footage of folks being on sets, but at different times, different days of the week, and like producers, production managers are having to merge and be super creative on how can you actually create a film where it doesn't look like people were there on different occasions, right? Like these times have pushed creatives, I think, to really step outside of their element or to continue to hone in on their craft in ways that people wouldn't normally see or talk about. And so I want all of the artists and all the creators out there to know that, like, I support you. We're proud of you from the Urban Collective Show, because y'all are just defying a lot of odds. Like we all are in life in general, but to, again, still find the energy to entertain people outside of yourselves while you yourself are navigating these intricate times. Thank you.
Yes. And shout out to Nas for finally winning a Grammy. It's 20 years too late, Grammys, but he finally won a Grammy for King's Disease for Best Rap Album. So shout out to him. I can't believe this is his first Grammy. This is ridiculous.
First. And Nas has been out here
94.
I was gonna say since I was a child. Like I love Nas. Yeah. Nas, Talib Kweli, and Common were the three rappers that I grew up on. Outside of like my Pac and my Biggies, you know what I mean? Like the conscious rap. I feel like they were my true introduction to conscious rap. Not that Biggie and Pac weren't conscious rappers, but I think they skirted around a lot of like other topics. You know what I mean? Yeah, like they had my mind somewhere else. And so like Questlove, like that's just so dope. It's so dope. So congrats, Nas. I love his voice. Oh, Nas. Anyway, whatever. Don't bring me down my childhood years.
I'm like, yeah, posters on the wall.
moments of love for my Nas. But then it hurt me when I learned, like for like Talib Kweli, for example, that he's a great conscious rapper, but doesn't live that life with his girl. You know, at the time, he wasn't really a great partner.
Yeah.
Walking contradictions don't sit well with
you. Can't be perfect, you know. You gotta understand this.
Don't be walking around talking about the king, the queens, how you supposed to be when you don't live that life. You know what? That's not even the point. Congrats to the women who won at the Grammys. We're not even going down there. We're not doing it. Kirk Franklin had to issue the world an apology. Didn't have to issue the world an apology. Chose to issue an apology to the world. That was funny though. Did you hear it? Did you hear the clip?
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I was like,
to me, I was looking at it like, if you're gonna say this to your grown child did something. So what happened?
And that's where I was looking at it too. But at the same time, it's been reported that they've never had a good relationship. So I think, you know, if you know you and your child are not in good standings, you should watch what you're saying around them. That's just me. Like
I hear that. This conversation about boundaries though, because I'm like, I don't care how I know what I am about my mom or any friend or relative. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, well, you know, we're not even that cool anyway. So let me record you. Not only am I gonna record you, but let me share it.
Oh yeah, no.
That's like going below the belt, especially because this was a bigger deal because of who Kirk Franklin is. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, like this person in the gospel world, gospel music, this, that, and the third kind of rapper, like what dibs and dabs in various spaces, and then he's doing this with his own kid, you know. So
I don't think in apology. This is something that happens between a family member.
Exactly.
I know he's a religious person, and then, you know, music and everything like that. So he's trying to protect his money. Probably, you know, his people behind the scene were like, hey, you need to go and apologize because this is going to hurt you in the long run. So he probably was forced to do it. I will say, me personally, but yeah, the recording, I don't care what argument we're getting in, recording me and putting that on the world, that will make me get more mad. But at the same time, as a parent, I think one of the biggest things, and this is me coming from, you know, a generational aspect where I have the Caribbean folks that think they can say whatever they want to you, and you're supposed to just take it. And that's where I draw that line there. Like, you have to watch what you say to your kids because that affects them. It doesn't matter whether they're 10 years old, they're 30 years old.
30-something years old.
Kids does affect them. So,
no, for sure. But it takes me back to what Jay-Z said in an album, right? Everybody loses when a family feuds. And I'm just like, this is a clear example of that. So like, y'all are feuding. And now it's like you have a grown man child having to explain or deciding to share his father's vent session and rash.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And having a father have to not apologize for something, like, that's not bringing them closer. That's not bringing them closer. It's just not. And so just again, like, I mean, I think you're right? Like, parents need to understand like their boundaries, but I think that there's always, not to defend what Kirk Franklin did at all, But I always will say that there are multiple sides to the story. So I would also have liked to hear or to know what sparked this interaction. And I don't know that. And so either way, Kirk Franklin, thanks for the apology. Watch what you say, like you said, Ashley said around your child. Children, certain things you just don't do to your parents. Parents, there's certain things you just don't say to your children. So like that's the bottom line.
Exactly. We're all human beings. We all got feelings.
Period. Right? But whatever's happening, don't share it with the world. It's not my business.
Exactly.
Business. It's just not my business. It's not. So, but closing out with some local news and politics for all of you, I'd like to give a wonderful shout out to the women of Women on Wheels and Trailblazers. In Boston in particular, the women of these two particular clubs and organizations were organized, or I would say, like, if I was in college, I'd say extracurricular activities, because one is like a biking group and another one's a running group. They collaborated together. Breonna Taylor's 1 year anniversary of her death was this past weekend. She passed away. In March, and it was tragic, right? To sit and to think about her passing, and to think about her passing at the age of 26. And so this group came together to ride for Breonna Taylor, to bring her to continue to honor her memory. And so we all met together in Castle Islands. We rode our bikes through Dorchester, all the way through the seaport in downtown Boston, and then rode ourselves back, stopped at the ICA, had a number of speakers engage in conversation. Chief of Diversity for Puma was part of the conversation. One of the founders of TrillFit was part of the conversation. And just to, again, be in the space, a yoga instructor. And so to be in this space, for those of you who want more details, go follow Women on Wheels and Trailblazers. Instead of it being a Z, it's her, it's an H, because it's hers. Trailblaze, it's hers. Playing off of the women element of things. So check them out. Thank you, ladies, for being part of that. I want to say there were more than like 200 people together, and children, part of this bike ride, and it was an honor. I was able to speak and deliver some words to the audience, and that was a true honor and privilege as well. And I see.
Yes, and the last local news we wanted to cover is to inform you all that they have the first child participant in the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine that has taken place. Kid Cove is running the study out of Cambridge. It was children ranging from 6 months to less than 12 years old. That's entered phase 2, so hopefully that bodes well, especially with trying to get back into school full time. If by the fall we can get these children vaccinated, that would be great for them. So that is all in local news and politics. And as always, thank you. And we have to bring you our special guest today. I'm going to add her on the show. And give me 1 second. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
How you guys doing?
Good. So cute. Before we have you officially jumpstart into conversation, as always, we love to highlight our celebrity guests by also reading their bios and letting our listeners know a little bit about them. And so for those of you who don't know who Quontay Turner, also known as Q, is, she is a multi-talented creative and entrepreneur. She is the founder of Q Made It and Emerald City Plant Shop, the first Black woman-owned plant shop in New England. She has over 8 years of experience in community organizing, event management, recruiting, and facilitating conversations and trainings around diversity, equity, and inclusion. In her spare time, Quontay helps connect other entrepreneurs of color to local resources as a food entrepreneur program manager at Commonwealth Kitchen, and serves as one of the lead organizers for the Boston Young Black Professionals Group, whose mission is to curate more spaces for professionals of color to fully enjoy all that Boston has to offer. She is a native of Mattapan and is passionate about creating a more inclusive and connected Boston. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, and all part of the Urban Collective community, please give us a warm welcome as we celebrate Q. Q, say hi to the people.
Hello, everyone. When you read my bio, I'm like, oh, it's all that. Thank you. Thank you guys for inviting me to be on the show.
Absolutely. Proud of you. You're doing so many great things. And I'm like, I think you're always like a silent but deadly kind of person to me. Because I'm like, for people who don't know, you might just be like, oh, Q, yeah, I see her, she's quiet. But I'm like, you just don't know until you know. All that he does. Seriously. So excited to have you here. We're just going to ask you a few questions, get to know you a little bit more, talk to you more about your craft. I'm going to turn it over to NIC to start off the conversation. Go for it.
Yes. Thank you again for being on, Q. So my first question for you is about starting the Emerald City Plant Shop. So when you were starting that, what were some of the hardships that you faced in order for you to start that, and how did you overcome those hardships?
And I'd also say, like, give us a little bit of a background of what Emerald City is.
What Emerald City is.
In the bio, but go for it.
Yeah, so I guess the long and short of it is my Nana gave me a couple clippings of her plants years ago, and that kind of sparked my interest in houseplants. And most of my career, I was in college admissions, so I was traveling nonstop. So I couldn't keep a plant alive even if I wanted to, because I was gone so much. So when I switched over to student affairs and I had more time at home, I kind of started getting more into plants. I'd say it definitely kicked into high gear in the last 2 years. And the last year, my friend Taylor hooked me up with a job to support my plant habit at Niche, which is in the South End. And anybody who's interested in learning about plants or accelerating their learning process, I definitely say work part-time at a plant shop. Just the amount of information that you get is invaluable. So I kind of like took my hobby to the next step, and then COVID hit. COVID hit, and we couldn't keep plants on the shelves. People were asking me, like, how do I keep my plant alive? So it was the border of needing to provide people with plants and also educate them on how to take care of their plants. So a lot of people are like, oh, I have a black thumb, or I'm terrible at plants. No, you just don't know what you don't know. And oftentimes we find a plant and we're like, oh, it's so pretty, not knowing that plant needs distilled water, it needs like high humidity and all these things. So after or during COVID, right, because we're still in it, I, thought about pivoting my business. So I've run Q Made It for the last February made 6 years, which is crazy. And when my cousin Jada had, who runs Black Owned Boss, she did a pop-up at Legacy Place. I took that as an opportunity to test out the plants. I live in Norwood, I lived in Dedham, so I know my Black-centered merchandise on my Q Made It side wasn't necessarily going to be selling off the shelves in Dedham. So I made the pivot for plants, and I've sold out every weekend. So with that, I was like, the biggest question I got from that holiday pop-up collective experience was, where can I support you? Where do you have a brick and mortar? And I was just like, well, I guess I should be looking for one. And I feel like this is just a testament to when you're, functioning in your purpose and you're doing what you're supposed to and everything's in alignment, like the opportunities just kind of flood in. So the pop-up ended in December. In January, a friend of mine had gotten me a massage that was down in Norwood Center, and I live in Norwood. And I saw the sign saying for rent for the place that we now have. So things just moved very quickly, and I'm so excited and grateful to be opening May 1st. So Emerald City Plant Shop is going to be a educational plant shop by day, and true to my roots as a native Bostonian, as a community organizer, it will also be an event space at night. So working with all the dope people in Boston to bring that community space to life in like an actual tropical oasis is just, I can't believe it's happening.
That's awesome. I could already see some of the like poetry, spoken word, artsy.
Shout out to Black Cotton Club.
Yeah, exactly. All of them about, I'll see you there. I'm excited. I can't wait to support it. Seriously, that's awesome. Congrats to you. I'd say going off of what you shared, right? So this is a story for you for the plants where your Nana gave you some plants to get you started. Take us on a journey to Q, right? So you're in the plant industry now. I'd say you were in clothing with like entrepreneurship and like accessories and home decor. Like Q Made It. I don't even know how to categorize Q Made It because you just do so much. I can ask you for a customized shirt. I can get a button. I can get a frame. I can get a disc. I can get coasters.
Cookies,
you know what I mean? So that world. You also with the BYP again with YBP with the entrepreneur, with bringing entrepreneurs together and people in the communities together. I wouldn't even just say it was like limited to entrepreneurs and creating these safe spaces. So take us on a journey of like Q's story and like, how did all of these elements come to be in your life, right? So if we were talking about Q as a child to Q as a high schooler to Q as a college student and student affairs, like how did all of this end up being Q?
Yeah, so I think everything that I do is like rooted in a passion or experience of mine. So I actually hated the term entrepreneur for most of my life. Like I feel like I just recently embraced it in the last couple of years. But I was 7, 8, selling my toys on the side of the road for like a yard sale. When I got to college, I didn't have the most supportive like nucleus family. So I had to, anything outside of a roof over my head and food on the table, I had to provide for my own. So I hustled. I used my grandparents' car and my stepmother's Costco membership to go buy boxes of candy and sell out of my locker. And that's how I, organized a senior class trip to Florida because we didn't have that. Shout out to all my O'Brien heads out there. I think it's just always been in me. Because thinking back to high school, we didn't have like cool gear or anything. And I was just like, well, I'll just make it. And then I'll just pass around a sign-in sheet and people can buy it from me. So I've always found gaps and found ways to fill those gaps. So even thinking about Boston YBP, my friend Henry had started it back in 2012, which is crazy. And I came on it was on Meetup. That's where we started. I came up a couple meetups afterwards, and, he loved being the face, and I really shine behind the scenes doing the logistics. So I was like, yeah, let's do this. So then we started doing beach days. We started, meeting up at bars, Wednesdays after work, because there was that need. We live in a Boston now that has, COVID aside, that has many options for Black people to do on a Friday, Thursday, Saturday night. But back in 2012, 2013, 2014, that wasn't really the case. Like, honestly, it was, we were just starting out. Shout out to Farah and Lightworks. She was just started out. And so, I feel like those were the two entities on the scene. And then, people started branching out and providing more. So now we have, tons of options to, feed our social palette. But back then it wasn't the case. So seeing that need and then filling it, and then now being able to step back and being like, now there's tons of options. Now we don't have to be the only ones. We don't have to be the only option. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's always been about like identifying a need and filling it. And filling it in the experience having lived as a Black woman in Boston.
And talk to us about that. So like having lived as a Black woman in Boston, what parts of your identity do you feel like you take with you in all of this work? And what parts of your identity do you feel like you have to leave behind or maybe dismiss or disregard or dim the light a little bit from because of just not having to navigate through Boston life?
Yeah. So, Boston, when I was growing up, is not the same physically. Like everything has been renovated, touched, under construction. But also like just the makeup. Boston was a lot more Black back in the days, but gentrification pushed a lot of our people out. I think about my experience growing up in Mattapan. When you're in high school, your world is your home, your school, and if you have a job. So for me, my life was, Mattapan, Roxbury around O'Brien, and then I worked at the aquarium for 5 years, so I knew like the waterfront area. And then I went to college. I went to a majority all-white male engineering school. Shout out to WPI. And for me, I had to check a lot of my identity. So for much of my life, it's been kind of just flying under the radar, like trying to be invisible and trying not to draw so much attention to myself. because I didn't know what to do with that, and I didn't really want the attention. I feel like after college, after putting in the hours, after slaving away, recruiting, being in engineering, being in different fields, it was in 2018, essentially, that I left my job, my full-time job, to do my business, my curated business full-time. And that was just off the success of the Wakanda Black Panther design I made that went viral. And when I made that choice, I was essentially working 9 to 5 and then working 5 to 9. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And so I left my job to do my business full time. And it was in that experience that I realized, like, nah, I don't have to check parts of myself, at the door when I go into a job, or I don't have to check parts of myself when I'm talking to people about what I do for a living. Like, that experience, being a full-time entrepreneur, diving deep into your craft, it's not for the faint of heart. I will say that there was a lot of stress, a lot of days I wasn't thinking I was going to make it. But the reward is that you can live fully and authentically you. Like, you don't have to answer to anybody about how you wear your hair or what, you decide to put on for clothes that day. And for me, that was worth all the struggle. And for me, that experience then laid out the foundation of, all right, if I am going to go back into the working world, like, these are my parameters. Like, I need to be able to show up fully as myself. And I'm so lucky, so fortunate to be able to do that at Commonwealth Kitchen, while also doing the work that I normally do anyway, by supporting, my community members, supporting Black entrepreneurs and other entrepreneurs of color. So yeah, that's kind of like my my short and dirty journey of how I've come to be with everything. Everything's kind of rooted in a passion of mine, a talent of mine, and a need I feel like needs to.
And a journey of growth, right? And I think you said it earlier, standing in your purpose, right? Fulfilling that passion. And so at some point you're like, listen, this is important to me. This is what I need to do. This is who I am. And I need to stay true to that, right? And I love to see it. And then somebody also, David Andrade, said the Black Panther event and after party was lit. So shout out to that. As you were talking, I remember you throwing like New Year's Eve parties, even in the very beginning, right? So I think about your journey and your growth. I remember you working at the aquarium. So again, right, this life and the evolution of people really, really is a beautiful thing to be able to watch. But as you said, staying true to yourself at the core and at the center is really, really important as well. So I'm glad you have the space to reflect and to be able to do that.
Yeah. And I do want to, like, I'm having nostalgia, right? Being a year in quarantine. Shout out to Farrah Lightwork. Shout out to Sheena at now Boston While Black, originally at Holly Air Connection. That event at the we did 2 events. We did the Black Panther screening and after party, which was like probably one of the highlights of my life. And then we followed it up the following year with Black AF at the MFA and had a whole event, and things to look forward to, like the light at the end of the tunnel once we get this COVID thing under control. But those are all the things that I live for. Like, people would never know that I'm an introvert, but I'm an ambivert. I can function in those spaces, but I love bringing people together, and that's what makes it all worth it.
Nice.
To see it.
Yeah, so I kind of want to bring it back to the whole plant side with you opening up a shop. So for people that are trying to get into owning plants and having plants, what would you give them as advice to, like, the first plant that they should buy? I've had a couple of died with on me this past year during COVID. Matter of fact, I'm looking at one right now
because I think I'm gonna kill him. So
yeah. So what advice would you give to those people that are afraid of getting into that world?
So my first piece of advice is kind of one of those things where you don't know unless you try. But I always tell people, snake plants. If you're weary about your start on plant parenthood, snake plants, ZZ plants are like the best starter plants because they want to be watered like maybe once every 3 weeks to a month. They don't need a lot of light. So they're the only way, and you know what? And to ease everybody's mind, it's okay to kill a plant. I've killed a snake plant.
Oh, okay.
I promise you all, you probably not killed as many plants as I have, but that's how you learn. The only way to really kill a snake plant is overwatering, and I've done that. And a lot of my knowledge prior to, working at a plant shop came from just trial and error. This big plant.
And I'm looking at that. I'm like, yo, that's a
beautiful.
Yeah, this is Sade. So I do name my plants.
Okay.
But it's a really great experience because it teaches you a lot about life lessons, right? So I got the plant, I put it in the corner. I thought that was going to be great for it. And then it started dying. And I'm just like, I'm literally talking to the plant like, listen, the first step is to make you stop dropping leaves. So we moved things around. I invested in a grow light, which now is like my whole house. So, plants are living things and you got to treat them as such. They get sick, they sometimes have things. Yeah. I have a monstera that is in quarantine, literally.
Oh, wow.
It has like pests and stuff.
I can't. What?
Like you said, it is a living.
Like, wait, what?
Yeah. So you see the stimulus checks are coming out. People are like, oh, I wish I could get a stimulus check for my dog. I'm like, I wish I can get one for my dog and my plants because you put me through it. But the flip side is that I honestly don't know what I would have done for the last year if it wasn't for these plants, especially as someone who lives by themselves. Caring for something in turn teaches you how to better care for yourself. We have a phrase in Emerald City, water yourself first. And a lot of plant care kind of encourages you to be like, all right, well, are you taking care of this plant, but are you taking care of yourself? Are you giving yourself water? Are you, doing the things that you need to for yourself? So for me, it was very much a therapeutic experience. And so I wanted to kind of share that with people. Plant care doesn't have to be complicated. You just need to know the right plants that fit the right lifestyle that you want to live.
Right. I feel like that spider plant will definitely the snake plant. Excuse me, I'm making up names out here. The snake
there's a spider plant, which is also bad, but
I'm getting a snake plant from the shop and open up. Mine's literally dying. I'm looking at it right now. It's like leaves falling. And I went and I bought the spray, the food, and everything. And I'm like, I got, what was it, a money tree or something?
See, they're a little touchy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking at leaves falling right now, and I'm just like, every time I'm like, oh.
You better make sure that that's not a representation of your money.
Yo, that's another thing that got me upset.
Lost causes.
No, we don't want that.
Take care of a plant, you can't take care of your finances. I'm kidding. I need one of those snake plants because Lord knows I don't have time. But I feel like I forget to water that plant because I don't have to water it enough. So I'd be like, wait, when did I water you last?
And that's the beauty of them. They're just like, okay, you gonna be gone for when we had people start coming back into the office from COVID, they was like, yeah, all my plants died, but my snake was fine. I'm like, yep. I repotted one that was in styrofoam, and I was like,
I like the way it looks. I'm gonna go get one of those.
But as you're talking about the plants, right, and how important they were to your survival and your mental health, the pandemic, I think further, as we've mentioned before, further exacerbated the realities that people who are historically marginalized are not necessarily taken care of, and we're at the bottom of the totem pole all the time, right? But here you are again as a Black woman entrepreneur, paving the way through the world of plants and finding a space for self-care through that, and thinking about all the other hats that you wear in general. So what are some of your hopes for the Black community in Boston as you move forward with furthering your education of plant life and bringing people together and curating spaces? As you said, you had 2 major events for Black culture before the pandemic happened. And where do you see yourself, now that you're having this plant shop, that you rented it, being along this way of your vision for Black Boston throughout the next 5 years? So sometimes people are like, oh, what's your, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I actually want to think about, where do you see yourself progressing over the next 5 years?
Yeah. So for me, Emerald City Plant Shop is very much rooted in the community, and it's very much rooted in my community of creatives, of Black entrepreneurs and community members that you know, we do for ourselves. Like we don't need a handout from someone else. And, you know, thinking about all the things, all the trials and tribulations kind of going through, you know, owning a brick and mortar store, you know, the mentality is that we got it out the mud, but we got it out the mud working together. You know, for me, supporting Black owned businesses, products, shout out to my local luxury. That spirit was instilled in me just by the support I've gotten as an entrepreneur. So for me, you know, thinking about Emerald City Plant Shop, it's going to be a hub for support, for education. We don't need to go for someone else for a handout because we got ourselves. So in addition to plants, there'll also be, you know, a lot of, you know, wellness gifts that are made by Black creators, you know, and talks with a lot of people to bring their ideas, their merchandise, their services, their anything to our doors, whether it's in the form of an event, whether it's in the form of a workshop, whether it's in the form of, you know, plant-based things. For me, you know, this is going to be, you know, a piece of the community that we can hold on to and not have to worry about, you know, getting bulldozed or being bought out. So that is my hope, is that we kind of return to our roots, like return to caring for each other, returning to supporting each other. Because if 2020 has made nothing else clear, is that everyone else don't really care about us. So we got to care about us. And that's kind of the cornerstone of Emerald City, and kind of just what I'm personally about now.
Nice.
Love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. And I see, go for it.
Yes. So with Boston not having, you know, too much spaces that welcomes non-minorities, and I know that's something that you are working on in the community. Do you think that it will ever get to that point where we are welcome at these places, that right now that we're frowned upon and are not welcoming the people of color? And then the second part to that is, what do we need to do as a community on our part to help make this happen?
So I think it is kind of turning around. You know, again, 8 years organizing events in the city, and being around other community gatherers too. Like, we know who's really for us and who's not. And I think we need to be more discerning of our money and our support of those establishments that aren't. And I feel like I've seen that play out in real time over the years. We can look at news stories and things like that. So I think for us, it's thinking about, how do we empower and make more spaces in Boston, like Emerald City Plant Shop, like Daryl's, you know, like Savor, like all these places, so that we have options that we can patronize, that we know are going to support us. So for me, I think thinking about what we need to do, we need to encourage and support more entrepreneurs to open up spaces that we can patronize. I know that's hard with Boston, especially the prices. There's a reason why I had to buy out in Norwood. That's where I have my shop out in Norwood. But exploring more areas, not necessarily restricted to the city limits, that we can kind of expand to. Because there's also, I was actually surprised at how many Black people are in Norwood too. And I was like, well, it makes sense. If Boston's pushing out all the people of color, they got to go somewhere. So just also kind of thinking about the greater community outside of just Boston city limits. You know, a lot of my friends that grew up in Boston either moved away or had to buy outside the city, just because no one has $500,000 to spend on a fixer-upper. You know, like, it doesn't make sense. So I think for us is kind of empowering us to create these spaces, not only in Boston if we can, but also in the other towns surrounding Boston. Absolutely. And being able to patronize those businesses too.
Got it.
I love that. It's so true. I love when you said too, Q, about us thinking about what Black looks like outside of Boston, right? I think sometimes when we're in it, like as a Boston native, as a first gen, like this, like Boston is my central hub, right? But you're right. Like, on the outskirts of that, there are Black people in Dedham, there are Black people in Milton, there are Black people in Norwood, Westwood. You name all of these other areas who still care about the culture, right? Who are still very well immersed in it or want to be, you know, and maybe Boston is easily accessible to them and maybe it's not. And so I'm looking forward to your shop potentially bringing all of those worlds together, right? Folks who are part of the suburban communities, but wanting to have part of that urban culture and vibe. And I hate to even call it urban because I'm like, no, it's this Black culture, right? So like, Black culture is not, it doesn't always have to be like the suburban version of it, the urban version of it, the rural version of it. Like, if we all watch Black Panther and we love it no matter where we were, you all love Black Panther, right? And so it's just having those kinds of conversations. So either way, I say kudos to you, and I'm really excited to see where that continues to go. In all that you do, I'd say mentorship and role models and examples are always important. I believe, right? And as you mentioned, like you name your plants and like Sade, I think about Sade the singer, right? So, you know, who are some of your role models or people that you look to for inspiration in the work that you do? Are there any like Black plants, like Black women who are in the plant industry that we need to look into, that have mentored you, or in the world of entrepreneurship and creation, or like in developing your business? Like, talk to us about who inspires you, who motivates you, and who are some of your go-tos for inspiration?
Yeah, so you know, it's interesting because growing up, if you ask me who my role model was, I would say Claire Huxtable, because there was no other Black strong woman role model that I could really look up to. You know, it's a blessing now that these, you know, all our young girls have Michelle Obama now, you know, VP
Abrams, Kamala Harris. Yeah,
there's so much representation. There's so many good role models to look up to. You know, but after like Claire, you know, Phylicia Rashad is just amazing, and I love her. So she'll always be my role model. But for me, I think I find a lot of inspiration, and a lot of my role models are my peers. I get inspiration from the other creatives I surround myself with. You know, in terms of plants, I have a soror down in Atlanta, Whitney, IG Afrohemian. She is amazing. And she kind of walked me through kind of just starting to learn about your plants and how, you know, paying attention to the little details, and like, it's alive, it's a living thing. So yeah, it could be good for a couple months, and then something bad happens. You gotta act and make sure it survives. So she's definitely an influence. You know, everyone in my creative circle up here, I can like list off names for days. Like both my LS and my other soror both have businesses now. Alicia and Danielle. Taylor from Hippie Adjacent, she makes now all my earrings. So I just get inspiration from my peers and my friends that are creating out, doing things. And I think it's important too to know that, like, I think when I was younger, and I think a lot of people associate role models with someone being older than you and more experienced than you. Like for me, my role models are the people that I'm helping out, you know, the people that are helping me out. So I kind of just look to my creative circle. Being in business for the last 6 years, doing shows all up and down the East Coast, like I've met so many amazing business owners and built so many great relationships that's kind of my role model and my support network.
That's awesome. Thank you. What do you look for in particular from them to be able to say, hey, you inspire me?
Yeah, so it's just, you know, watching them work. Like, I think you know, whatever the saying is, like, you never know who's watching you and who's like getting inspiration from you. You know, so which is why I kind of make it a conscious effort to share my stories, to share my struggles, because you never know who's going through the same thing and maybe just not vocal about it. But you know, I'm not afraid to be like, yo, sis, I love your designs. Like, can we collaborate? Can we, you know, and have actionable items and not just be like, I want to work with you. That could be a whole nother topic of conversation. But, you know, I like to live my life on the bartering system, right? Like, what is something that I can give you that I can also get something from you, and not necessarily in a bad way, but it could be inspiration, it could be services, it could be, something like, not everything has to be monetary, though you should pay people at every time you are able to. But thinking of ways outside of that. And I think about, shout out to my aquarium days, the symbiotic relationship between people. Like, we need each other. Like, there's going to be things I can do for you that I can't necessarily do for myself, and vice versa. And just having that conversation and that working relationship on how do we help each other.
Thank you so much. You appreciate that. Absolutely. That symbiotic relationship, right? Nobody was brought into this world alone. Nobody can truly make it through this world alone. So whether that's a passion project, something you're looking to explore, something you're truly committed to, whatever, like however you want to define it and classify it, you need people, right? So we need people to sustain, we need people to create. We also need people to hold us accountable and check us and let us know when we're doing something that can improve somewhat differently, right? Or incorporate something we've never even considered, or implement structure where we didn't even know we needed it. So thank you so much, Q.
So Q, I want you to let the audience of the collective know where they can follow you, from the shop to online personal pages, how they can get in touch with you if they need to.
Yeah. So first things first, Emerald City Plant Shop. Emerald City Plant Shop on all platforms, Instagram, Facebook, our website, emeraldcityplantshop.com. We are in the midst of a renovation and a huge crowdfunding effort to raise $20,000 in the next couple of weeks. So if you are able to give, that would be amazing. And that is also kind of linked on our Instagram page, the little link tree in bio. Q Made It. That is my kind of creative business. Now I'm kind of making it just like a creative platform. Is Q Made It on Instagram, and also QMadeIt.com. And then for my personal page, it's just Quontay, QUONTAY _ on Instagram.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Q, for your time. Thank you so much for all of the creative endeavors that you go through. For any of you who are looking to be entrepreneurs or who are already entrepreneurs, then, I like to say, or people have said, right, it's not about quantity, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. I also will say my backlash to that, I don't even say backlash, but my challenge to that is sometimes you actually can have your hands in various pockets. It all depends on what you're grounded in and what your root and your foundation is, right? And what keeps you grounded, I think, really stems from, again, who you are on the inside, what you have to navigate through, but also what you're looking to present into the world, and really what speaks to your heart and what speaks to your soul. And so, Q, you're doing various things, right? From the world of plants to what you do with Commonwealth Kitchen, to what you do as a creative, where you can truly recycle what we don't even use anymore and turn it into something you place so much value in. For those of you who don't really know the work of Q, really follow Q Made It so you can see truly how she transitions one object in the world that we might not even consider to be of significance to us into something that is truly valuable, right? And so thinking about that, but then also creating social spaces for people of color to navigate. So again, you can truly have your hands in more than one pot, if you will. It's just about regulating the temperature and making sure you don't get burned. And even if you do, it's about treating that burn to allow you to sustain and to create, to continue to cook and bake more things. So Q, thank you for all that you do. We are so excited for your grand opening in May. I'm sure the collective will be there. We got to talk to you about a feature of some sort to be able to celebrate that and to acknowledge that. And we wish you the best of luck. So thank you so much for your time.
Right. Thank you both for having me.
Absolutely.
Have a good night.
Talk to you soon. All right, collective. So that was Q again, really showing us that you can do so many things with yourselves and with your time and with your energy. This is the life that we all lead, folks. So go out there. If you have a dream, it's one thing to dream it. It's something totally different to turn it into reality. So thank you again, Q, for your time. For folks who are tuning in and who are looking to follow or who have been consistent with us with the Urban Collective Show, we thank you so much. We are who we are because of you. We do it for the city. We do it for the culture. We do it for the people. And we are only able to be as strong as we are and as committed as we are based on your contributions and your support. So if you have any artists or any entrepreneurs or any folks in the greater Boston community that you feel like flies under the radar or needs to be highlighted and celebrated, please send those names our way. Do not hesitate, because again, by us doing it for the city and the culture, it's all about the city and the culture coming out for us as well. If you're looking to follow us, please follow us at the Urban Collective Show on Facebook. We're also the Urban Collective Show on Instagram. If you're looking to follow us on Twitter, we are at UC Show 3 on Twitter. And if you want to email us, feel free to email us at theurbancollectiveshow@gmail.com. So, and I see, take it away.
Yes, yes. You know, we always like to end the show with a motivational quote. So this week, the quote is coming from Nelson Mandela. The quote goes like this: "For to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others." So don't take it for granted, y'all. There's a lot of people out there suffering. There's a lot of people out there that you could say are just not able to be free, whether it's spiritually, mentally. We need to live the best life that we can and make sure others are seeing that, because it will help others also. And that's it for this week. We will catch you guys not next week, but in 2 weeks. We'll be back to our normal schedule of bi-weekly interviews. Can't wait. Make sure you go download and stream the shows. It's available on every single platform, from Apple, Google, to every other platform that you can think of that is out there. Go download, listen, share it, tell a friend to tell a friend. And that's it. Peace.
That's it. All right. So it's your girl, Bernadine Truth, alongside
Man and I see.
And we'll catch you soon. And hello, Angel, because I know you just gave me a personal shout out. So I see you too. Thank you for all the work.
Hey.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.